All right, good morning. It is a Wednesday morning, and y'all, we are going to talk this morning about the ultimate tactical circumcision. And to help me with that conversation, I brought in one of our favorite military strategic experts. And I hope you're watching the cheeseburger because Cameron's back, and he misses you, sugar. How you doing, gentlemen?
Pretty good.
I'm fantastic. Good. I can still hear the music. Or is that a deliberate artistic choice?
That is not. There should be no music remaining.
You're not echoing. You're not delayed, so I'm not sure.
Y'all begin discussing the topic, and I'll double check.
I'll begin discussing the topic. Well, aloha snack bar, bitches. Like it's.
Yeah, how you doing?
All right, so the bottom line up front here, okay, is the Hezbollah uses pagers, okay? Now, they use pagers for internal communications because they think it's more secure. Why would they be using pagers? Well, because they think that, the answer to high tech is usually like going very low tech, okay? We use 5G
right, like having wooden fishing, like having wooden boats that don't show up on Doppler.
Right, or like using diesel submarines that can operate in silence. Okay, it's actually the biggest threat to modern naval weapons. Okay, anyway, so bottom line is pagers used by Hezbollah within their operationally, probably within the senior leadership. Okay, were tampered with to contain explosives that would be detonated remotely by Mossad. Okay, actually, like terrifying operation here. Like brilliant. Even I'm kind of conflicted here because there's the former glowy in me that just admires such an access operation. Okay,
that was a ballsy move.
Okay, like that's pretty wild. That's pretty inventive and creative. And then the other side of me is like, that's kind of terrorism, though. That's you know what I mean. So anyway,
I don't know that I agree.
Reaction.
I don't know that I agree with the terrorism thing. Chris and I discussed it briefly in warm up this morning, and I think this is sort of the ultimate surgical strike. I mean, it doesn't get any better than this because if you have one of these pagers, if you're anywhere near one of these pagers, you are a fucking bad guy. Like, you are a verifiable military target. Like, I don't know that it's possible.
Not necessarily. Okay, I mean, there could be children. Okay, children within the house with one of these pagers. Okay, they're, we don't play sins of the father here. Okay, like they're innocent. People in the page, they all blew up at 3:30. Okay, 3:30 p.m. All right, local time there in Lebanon, which means it's like that's like the middle of the day when people are out and about doing things. So a lot of them went off in public places and would have injured civilians. Okay, so no, I'm not gonna rah Israel for this one. Okay, I do respect the operation for basically from an intelligence perspective. Like it's pretty bold. Okay, but I mean, there is an aspect of terrorism here, and let's be honest. Like that's Israel has been called the father of terrorism. All right, like that's part of how their country got founded. I mean, they had insurgent groups, okay, terrorist organizations who were bombing the British back when it was the British Mandate, okay, to try to like accelerate the completion of the Balfour Declaration and handing the country or handing that handing Israel over to the Israelis. So Mossad ran this operation. Mossad's motto is through deception thou shalt make war. Okay, so Israel's, I mean, and you can love them for it, you can hate them for it. Okay, you can be like, well, they're a tiny country surrounded by enemies, therefore they're going to have to resort to extraordinary tactics, okay, to protect themselves. Okay, like, I understand that, but
And they're a
let's be
tiny
real.
country surrounded by enemies who are willing to go to extreme extents to cause just unimaginable terror. Let's not forget the guys whose pagers just blew their nuts off, the guys that just lost fingers to their comms devices. This is the same organization that paraglider attacked a music festival and went on a rape and murder rampage to make their political point. These are, this is Hezbollah. I dealt with Taliban and Al Qaeda, etc. But these are the same guys that, they've got the kid with Down syndrome chained up in the yard, and if you've got girls going to the school locally, they'll come and abduct the girls and cut their, little girls like my 12-year-old Penny or my 5-year-old Ellie. They'll abduct them and cut their noses and ears off for the sin of seeking literacy. Right? These are the people that we're talking about here. And Alex even asks the question down here, weren't they detonated among a civilian population? And Sergeant Major answered the question right before that. All governments will use terror tactics when they think it gives them the advantage. Part of what war is, right? We're going to get into a bit of a philosophical conversation here to answer these questions and to bolster His Majesty's point. I've always found the idea of a war crime being a laughable concept. Let me help you guys understand this. War, it really is this simple. War is prior to ethic. The natural state of man, prior to the development of government cooperation between individuals, even the establishment of the concept of tribes, any organization larger than the individual family unit, where essentially you have a natural evolutionary compulsion to reproduce and then defend, support, and nurture your progeny. Everything past that is what the lefties like to call a social construct. And in a lot of ways, they're right. War is the natural state of things. Everything else we enjoy, right? The fact that this technology works so that we can have these conversations, that there is a McDonald's you can go and buy a cheeseburger at. These things are not true. They are not real. They are the facade that is created by our constantly struggling to tell that lie. The second we stop all lying to each other about the existence of money and McDonald's, those things disappear. Ethics are identical with that. Ethics do not exist unless we all agree to lie to one another about the existence of ethics. War is prior to ethics. War is a part of humanity that predated our decision to begin lying about how to treat one another. And so anything that is happening in war is justifiable. And let's be very clear about what I'm saying here. Just because one side disagrees that the other side's justification is illegitimate does not mean that the other side's justification goes unaccepted or even intellectually unproved within the confines of their own space. This is this is different than what I'm saying here is different than arguments about moral relativism, right? Moral relativism suggests that other cultures do things differently. Like, for example, they eat cats and do voodoo sacrifices. And so, because Haitians like to eat cats, right? They do this voluntarily even when it's not necessary, and they practice voodoo, and so they use cats for ritual sacrifice within voodoo. Because their culture accepts that, then we must also accept that. That's why that's what's called moral relativism. What I'm talking about with the difference in the way the ethic exists between two sides in a war is the opposite of that. Whether or not you accept what the enemy believes is irrelevant to the effect that the enemy's belief has on their conduct of war. And now we're into game theory. It's irrelevant to what that belief and that conduct means to how you must interact strategically. Because when the enemy makes certain strategic decisions, a part of an intelligent strategic decision, right? Think combat engineers, right? Combat engineers lay down minefields to foreclose paths. So some strategic maneuvers, like for example, booby trapping all your nutsacks, forecloses other strategic decisions that the enemy may have made. War is prior to ethics. So the idea that this is that there's an element of terrorism to this set of attacks, I agree, and I think that's irrelevant to the conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about that's. Do you have like a degree in philosophy or something? What was that, Larry? Anyway, well said. But I mean, think about terrorism. I mean, because think about how demoralizing this would be. You know what I mean? Like, think about how you got you got bamboozled. You know what I mean? Like, this is humiliating. It's humiliating. Okay, you 2,700
and utterly bamboozled.
Yeah, like 2,700 injured. Okay, so
Iran's ambassador to Lebanon injured by pager explosion.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking like 2 battalions worth of men taken out by pagers. Okay, that's rough. So, what I'm concerned about is why would Israel do this unless they were in? So, anyway, brief aside, Israel has just finished up operations in Rafah, which is the last southernmost region of the Gaza Strip. Okay, so they've ostensibly completed their military operation there. And Bibi Netanyahu has stated multiple times that, well, what comes next is, well, we're going to take the operation up north, okay, meaning Hezbollah. So if they're going to pull off a spectacular, okay, a spectacle like this, okay, I think it's probably going to precede a military ground operation in Hezbollah, like imminently, okay. Like I said, you just took out 2 battalions worth of men. Okay. Now would be the time to strike if I were planning a war against Hezbollah. So, and honestly, like, the U.S. government hasn't done anything to, like, all of our red lines or whatever. They've been ignored. We haven't done anything to stop Israel at this point, or even really try to curb their efforts, aside from like not giving them our most advanced like pinpoint precision bombs. Okay. But yeah, we really haven't done anything to stop it. So I don't anticipate the State Department really having any sway in stopping such a military operation, in Lebanon. So which be the third Israeli-Lebanese war is what we're looking at right now.
Right.
So,
and so one of Donald Trump's big claims to fame is the so-called Abraham Accords, which nearly effectively gave us peace in the Middle East by most accounts and by most arguments. But let me be clear about something. As much as I'm all for world peace and cheap gas, and it would do my heart good if just everybody got along and we stopped shooting at each other, frankly, I don't care what happens between 2 foreign nations. I just don't. unless it directly affects my wallet. Fuck them. Let them do what they're going to do to each other. Um, that'll work for me. That said, when you're talking about Middle East conflict, you're talking about oil. You're talking about access. And, oh, that's right. We achieved oil independence under Donald Trump. So all of a sudden, none of that shit matters.
Yep. And that's why Saudi Arabia was desperate to make some kind of some kind of geopolitical deal with us. Okay, because I don't want to go down a tangent. Okay, but yeah, the U.S. energy independence is like a paradigm shift. Okay, when it comes to relations with the Middle East. Okay, Saudi Arabia was desperate to make a deal with us so that they didn't. They have a huge welfare state that they have to operate, and it's operated from proceeds from the oil sales. And that's why one of the first visits that Donald Trump made when he became president was to Saudi Arabia to form some kind of grand deal, which was intended to end with the Abraham Accords, which were supposed to provide a solution for peace in the Middle East. The Palestinians kind of blew that up, but I don't know what's been going on behind the scenes since the Biden administration. So I'm sure they fucked it up to some degree. So speaking of the Biden administration,
how's that for comment? So His Majesty says Israel will not do anything to allow the Biden administration to claim any success in this war. After Trump is elected, peace will follow.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Just Trump, simply by his nature, has more gravitas than Biden with more or less any foreign leader. So, the U.S. government is stating that they didn't know anything about this. They had no involvement whatsoever in the operation. I kind of want to believe that, but then again,
wait, where did you hear that from?
Zero Hedge, U.S. government saying that they weren't aware of it, or they weren't.
Really?
Yeah.
So the AP News has a U.S. official said Israel briefed the U.S. on the operation, in which small amounts of explosive hidden in the pages were detonated on Tuesday. Okay.
I read
this
is
after it was concluded. Okay, so you're saying that Zero Hedge said that the U.S. they didn't have a heads up. They weren't
right. Exactly. They didn't have a heads up, but I do find that a little strange because, like I said, these pagers were recently ordered, like a large batch of them, okay, from a Taiwanese company called Apollo Gold, and Mossad agents had got into them at the production line. So you've got like direct cooperation between the Israeli government and the Taiwanese government. Okay, who's the obvious intermediary here between these two countries on opposite ends of the world? Clearly, the United States. So
right.
We must have had some knowledge of this, unless Israel's running game with our allies behind our back, which is also entirely possible. But the Taiwanese angle kind of implies that the U.S. involvement. You know what I mean?
Well, let me give you some pushback on that. The fact that the operation went off as a smashing success is actually good evidence that we didn't know.
Oh shit! Hold
on. we just don't glow as bright as we used to. It's a shame. Maybe. Larry lost his ears. He's back.
Yeah, I got him back. Okay. I got him back.
Yep.
So
Doug Paxton is asking, I thought pagers went out in 91 in Detroit. So yeah, that's what I was saying. So I kind of fumbled it at the beginning, but the answer to high tech, okay, is low tech. All right. I know it sounds silly, but if most intelligence operations are based on intercepting communications, okay, intercepting and analyzing communications against the enemy. So you're thinking like 4G, 5G would be what the current medium is. Okay. Well, the answer to that, and that's where the intelligence collection is focused on. Then you should focus on you doing your operations in 2G or 1G, or pagers, which are like the most primitive of all, operate under basically SMS protocols, text messages. All right. That's like 1G type technology. So they were probably thinking or hoping that Israel wouldn't notice something so low tech. You know what I mean? And it's a good idea. I understand the reasoning. But sadly, they were wrong, like really, really wrong. So the host just planted a push to dial tone attack message, which is going to cause my phone to explode. So yeah.
Oh, I got it wrong because it's supposed to be upside. It's supposed to be all the way upside down. There you go.
I see what you're doing. Are you posting boobies? You're posting boobies.
Absolutely.
That's nice, Chris.
I mean, we're talking about pagers. I haven't had a pager since I was managing a Papa John's in Conyers, Georgia. That was 99.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, oh shit, I got derailed there.
That's okay. Boobies do it to me all the time.
Yep. How could they not?
It's an acceptable derailment.
Absolutely.
So,
an effective one, apparently, because we just went straight dead air there.
No, I won't. I'm not gonna. I wouldn't reveal too much, but I have been involved in my former life. I was involved in certain type of operations involving SMS text protocol. Okay, but it was like disinformation campaigns. It wasn't
right.
It wasn't like it wasn't explosives. Wasn't whatever you want to call this. And this is like, I don't think I've seen anything like this before. Have you?
No.
Yeah.
No, nothing.
No, it's brilliant. Like it's like it's literally like a Tom Clancy like plot. Okay, it's about as good as it gets. Like if you wrote a movie that had some big payoff in the third act, this would be that payoff.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the results of this particular attack. We've got some 2,500 casualties from the attack, but those are injury casualties. There were only like nine or 10 actual fatalities from these. So we're talking about a pretty low yield explosive that's being detonated by way of the basically the battery being overheated by an outside contact. It wasn't all that long ago we were seeing news reports about Samsung Galaxy phones that were just randomly exploding. They'd heat up and the battery catch fire. So this
Hello from Korea with Rob.
Oh no, 한국 제가 아주 좋은데요. Xander's asking, okay, we'll get back to that in a minute. So, this is something where the technology was very available. It happens to be a flaw of the use of lithium-ion batteries. We've seen, we've seen people vaping, right? And they've got that big kit mod that, I'm super low, I'm low resistance, so I get those big, billowy, white, fluffy, boom! Right, lithium-ion battery blows up in their face and takes their teeth out because you're basically you're sucking on a live hand grenade there if your wiring isn't perfect.
Yeah.
Same thing with
if your airsoft gun starts smoking, put it down immediately.
Yes, if your airsoft gun starts smoking, put it down immediately. I've had it happen with drone batteries. A drone battery, and there's a lot you can do to take care of your battery so that you don't run into these problems often. That you don't run into these problems generally. Like the drone battery thing, it's Georgia and I work on the road, so yeah, I forgot to pay close enough attention to one of my drone batteries in the truck on a hot day while I was shooting a photo shoot one day, and I had to. It started to swell up, and I pitched it into the woods and ducked, and I'm still with you.
Yeah, yes, Paxton, they are, and that's why when they catch fire, when like a Tesla catches fire, the firemen don't even bother spraying it with water. You can't put out can't put out a lithium and
Correct.
magnesium fire.
Once
You just
it's
have to
on
let it
fire,
burn. Just let it go. Yep.
you just have to wait for it to burn itself out and then come back and fill in the hole with free dirt.
But this wasn't a battery exploding in the pager. They actually did. There were explosives planted in them, but the hack, if you will, was getting the batteries to overheat to detonate them.
Correct. But the same phenomenon, the same mechanism that causes the battery to overheat, that is how they were able to access it to detonate it after they were delivered. But Alex asks the question: how did they get these into the hands of the terrorists?
Hezbollah ordered them, and Israel got into the production line of the ones that they were going to receive. That's why I say it's a total bamboozle. You know what I mean? Like everyone in the Middle East, okay, whether you're, part of a terrorist organization, an Islamist organization or not, you're probably looking at your cell phone today like, I'm gonna just put that over there for the next few. I don't know what's going on. Like that's why I say it is terrorism. Okay, like I'm not applying moral, some moral calculation to it, but for purposes of like to demoralize and terrify the enemy, like this was exactly what this is exactly what you want to do. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, we've talked about this before, Mario. Like the mistake we made in Afghanistan is we didn't kill enough people on the first couple of days.
That's
true. It really is that simple. And what happens is if you don't go in hard and just completely obliterate the enemy, right, without overthinking the civilian casualties problem. And I know this is going to sound pretty harsh, but you can go in and just destroy 10% of the local population in the first year on the ground, and the result is that war is over. Yeah. Your alternative, as we saw with Afghanistan, is you stay at war for 20 years. So what has a greater deleterious effect on the local population? 10% loss of life in the first year, and then it's over.
I've heard.
Let's drag this out with civilian casualties for the entire period and military casualties, people dying on both sides, fine people on both sides, being destroyed by one another, and the eternal damage that's just wreaked on your economics and on your agricultural infrastructure. This is why earlier when Mario said this is terrorism, I said, I agree, and I'm good with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what all that stuff about wars prior to ethic is about.
So what you were saying is, I've read from military historians that to defeat a population, you have to kill at least 7% of the population. Correct. Okay, basically to break them, to take away their will to fight. So
10%,
7%, that's the magic number. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 10% is a little extra for safety, and that's why we have the word decimate. That's what the word means, to decimate the enemy. To reduce them by 10%.
You could actually apply ethics and say, okay, if you actually want to reduce collateral damage to the maximum degree, you come in and you lead off with your strongest punch. You come in and you make a fucking statement. Like, oh no, we're rolling heavy, we're rolling deep, and that actually speeds up the end of the war, because even to somebody like me that's never been in the military and doesn't have the training, that makes sense. Like the only thing you could do is hurry up and win, or frankly, hurry up and lose and end the conflict. Because the point of any war is to resolve the conflict. They say violence doesn't solve problems, except for all the times, in fact, violence does solve problems.
This operation, I agree with you, but this operation is pure collateral. Okay, this is pure collateral damage operation. That's the point of it. And you look at the injuries. The injuries, it's okay. So a lot of I go on websites where gore gets posted all the time, right? I'm fascinated by it. I can't help it. Anyway, a lot of these injuries are people like fingers blown off, like gut injuries, okay, fingers blown off, or people's faces like get third-degree burns on them. You know what I mean? So these are specifically the type of injuries that would take you off of the battlefield. You know what I mean? Like you rendered that even if you didn't kill them, you rendered that person incapable of fighting. Period. So
which is a W. I don't know that philosophically speaking that I'd agree that that's collateral damage. If you take an enemy soldier out of the fight, like that's the point.
hey, guy in the chat here, Ramon Almarsal. Okay, I get it, dude. Okay, I'm not super pro Israel. Okay, I'm kind of like the mitigating side here. Okay, so I understand both sides. Okay, I get it. I'm not 100% pro Zionist, pro Israel. So I'm just trying to talk about this objectively.
And
So
yeah, and I'm not going to worry about Rahman there too much. He mentions that the Mongols killed millions in each Arab city, and the Mongols became Muslim 10 years later. And fair play. He's right.
And they still
Islam is
kept killing.
Islam is a cancer that spreads and metastasizes if you don't cut it out entirely. You're 100% correct there, Rahman.
well, yeah, but some like 7% of all Chinese people can trace their lineage back to Genghis Khan. So, like,
Yes.
where do you want to draw the line on your effect over time?
Right. And now,
But
credit where credit's
And if
due.
you,
Rahman
I mean, look
also
at,
mentioned, or Raymond, or whatever his name is. No, it's Reman. Reman. Are you a detransitioner? Anyway, Reman. Oh, damn! Now I sidetracked myself. Oh, he mentioned Vietnam earlier. This is very similar to the Vietnamese tactic. The Viet Cong would wound an American, so they would intentionally wound instead of kill, with the hope that somebody else would come out from cover to try and recover the casualty and expose themselves to be shot down. And now all of a sudden, you've got two screaming casualties calling for help, and you just sit back in the bushes and wait until a rescue team comes. I mean, and
so let me.
Mario and I trained to deal with that situation. And let me tell you something, brother. When you have to deal with that situation, it gets nasty.
So let me offer up a suggestion as to why it actually makes a lot of sense that Taiwan and Israel would completely go behind the USA's back on all of this. There's a whole other factor here. Um, it's the China thing. You didn't just put the
China.
Arab world. You didn't just put the Arab world on notice, like, buddy, we can fuck you up in ways you haven't even thought about yet. Um, you also put China on notice. Hey, we can fuck you guys up in ways you haven't even thought about yet. Well, you think what we can do with a couple thousand pagers to a bunch of camel jockeys is bad. Um, how many of you are carrying around knockoff iPhones that you're totally certain are totally safe? Like this has got a lot of implication behind it because they didn't start this process a week ago. They would have had to have started this process several weeks ago at a minimum. And
No,
so
next day
you don't
delivery,
have.
baby. Amazon.
no, this was a long-term operation for sure. Israel's very patient.
Oh shit! Hezbollah paid the 99-cent upcharge for next day delivery. We got to move now.
I'll tell you what,
Go.
Hezbollah's
But
on the
what I'm
phone with
driving at,
Huawei today.
but what I'm driving at is, yes, this was a long-term operation, and what they just did it once. There aren't God knows how many other little bombs, both physical and maybe digital, packed into God knows what everywhere all over the world. Like this was a fucking statement.
Yes,
It
and
was.
part of that statement, we talked a little bit about the terror angle a minute ago. Now, at a minimum, this organization has to be wondering about every communication device they use.
And
Like,
they're going to
wait,
be getting
we got into the
yeah,
pagers.
yeah.
Where can't they be? Well, there's nowhere they can't be.
Let me say
Your
something
homing
about this.
pigeons are going to start attacking you in your sleep and pecking your eyes out.
I got something on this. So from an intelligence perspective, okay, the problem with doing stuff like this, okay, like exotic operations, exotic access operations, okay, things like this is that in the IC, there's kind of a give, there's a conflict between actually using your toys, okay? Because when you use your toy, you effectively burn your toy, okay? Once you've
Right.
used it, then everybody knows about it, all right? So do they have more, are there more electronic devices that are scheduled to explode? I don't know. I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because now Hezbollah is going to be scrambling to get rid of all their personal communication devices. Okay, that's why I was saying Hezbollah is probably on the phone right now with China. Okay, trying to get a contract with Huawei, who they know that the Israelis or the Americans.
Hello, China. Hello, China.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, and that's part of the beauty of it. That's what I was getting at with the homing pigeons thing, is you're absolutely you're absolutely right. They're not just questioning everything, they're throwing away all their pagers.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a period here where they simply do not have communications.
Another reason why this is
I think we
almost
just lost
certainly
Cameron.
we did. Another reason why this is almost certainly an advent of war, okay, in Lebanon, okay, just because one, you've taken 2 battalions out of the fight, all right, you're wasting resources tending to these injured men who have painful, horrible injuries that are going to require a lot of therapy, okay, and remediation, and then you've got a communications crisis within Hezbollah where they're discarding phones, all right, so. Hezbollah would be incredibly disorganized right now. This would be the time to strike if they were going to do it.
Yeah, exactly, because they have effectively reduced the combat effectiveness of the entire unit.
Mm-hmm.
So
anyway,
so look for troop movement over the next couple of days, and that'll give us a pretty good idea of what the op tempo will be going forward until the election.
Yeah, speaking of the election, so Biden's basically a lame duck. So if anyone wants to get away with anything on the world stage right now would be the time to do it. Okay.
Yes, and I suspect that most right now, most of the polls show the election to be essentially a dead heat. But Nate Silver, who's he's a lefty, but he's pretty good at what he does. He's got. I haven't looked today, but the last time I looked, Nate Silver had Trump favored to win by like 73% or something, and that's.
Oh, Mario must have said something brilliant because now I'm back and he's no longer talking.
So yeah, so the whole world right now is making strategic, tactical, and diplomatic decisions based on the very high probability that Donald Trump wins this upcoming election, unless the Democrats have basically telegraphed to all of those allies that no, it's going to be okay. We're stealing it again. We've got it on lock. And so there's actually room to extract some useful analysis just from the question of whether or not the actors on the world stage are acting as if Donald Trump is going to be the next president. And for Israel to make this move now, knowing that Biden and Harris are not going to come in and try to stop them because they're feckless and weak, I would absolutely expect a dramatically increased op tempo, probably some troop movement, and a lot of dead bodies in the Middle East between now and then. There's likely a bit of that going on with the Ukraine situation, because Mario and I were going to talk about this sometime this week, and of course it got sidetracked by the just straight baller move of some crafty Jews blowing the dicks off a bunch of Hezbollah, which I fully support, by the way. I can't say that enough. I'm totally behind this maneuver. But the concern, the Ukrainians are concerned that Donald Trump's about to win the election and end the war. And the Ukrainian government does not want the conflict with Russia to end, because as soon as it does, the money dries up. They don't give a shit about the people on the ground dying. They give a shit about American dollars. And so I think globally, we're probably going to see China make some moves over there as well. Is it Taiwan or It's Taiwan.
Yeah.
We're probably going to see China make some moves, because basically, if Donald Trump wins this election, then they no longer have a friendly American government that's going to sit back and treat them with kid gloves. So all this stuff heating up makes me cautiously optimistic that the enemies of the United States, who have intelligence on the United States and are clearly in constant communication with the Biden-Harris administration and the Harris campaign and the Democrat National Party generally, they are not optimistic about Kamala's chances of securing the election.
Yep. Well, I think I don't think China is going to do anything provocative until the election. They've had a pretty good strategy thus far of just sitting back and watching the West eat itself and then win by default. Okay.
If the mat is not straight, the master will not sit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as for Israel's concerns here, Ukraine definitely doesn't want Trump elected. Okay. I mean, you had some guy who was associated with Ukraine who was actively involved in Azov, okay, who was trying to recruit people to join the Foreign Legion for Ukraine, okay, get involved in an assassination plot against Trump. That's a coincidence.
Well, and Ukraine
big coincidence.
Was more involved. Ukraine did more to interfere with the 2016 election on behalf of Hillary Clinton. We've got proof of this. Ukraine did more to interfere with the 2016 election on behalf of Hillary Clinton than the Democrats tried to accuse Russia of doing on Trump's behalf.
Right. Well, and so I was saying with Israel or with other state actors, okay, what they're thinking if Trump takes office, he's going to immediately call for like hey, everybody shut up right now, okay? I'm president now. Everybody stop. Okay. There's gonna be initiatives in every single direction. Okay. Trying to stop the bleeding, put out the fires all around the globe that have been allowed to, rage since Biden came into office. And there are a lot of people who it is in their strategic interest to keep those fires going. Okay. In Ukraine. All right. You've got two major like huge sources of money that are involved here. One is the military industrial complex wants to continue the arms sales, okay, to the Ukraine, or wants to continue the aid packages to the Ukraine, because most of that money just gets turned right around into vouchers for military equipment, okay, Raytheon, right. Northrop Grumman, etc. Right, and then secondly, Xander mentioned it in one of his posts. The rebuilding effort, yes, that is going to be run largely by BlackRock, okay. Which
correct.
Is the
sooner you get to the rebuilding effort, the sooner you turn off the tap with all the other money. So Xander Mack's correct. There is going to be money flooding into that country, and it's going to largely go to the same people that are getting paid right now. But the thing about a rebuilding effort is low priority as compared to a war. It doesn't have the buyer motivating urgency of a war with, we've got dead women and children. Americans, please spend your money. It's like, our houses were blown apart. We need help. You know what, man? My heart goes out to you, and I want to help you. I've kind of got some of my own shit to deal with right now, right? So,
and a rebuilding effort has a timeline.
And that was the next thing I was going to say. It has a timeline, and it has a definite timeline. You get 20 years into us spending billions of dollars a year on a rebuilding effort, and you'd be amazed. Even blue-haired Democrats will start asking questions about why they can't get their abortion bills.
Well, I don't know, man. I think the U.S. government is consumed by bloodlust. Okay, honestly, in Ukraine, they just, half a million men dead. Like that's not enough for you. You want more death. You know, it's really it's disturbing. Makes you wonder who's really in charge here, because it's not Biden, but somebody just wants to throw bodies into the meat grinder.
Yep.
In perpetuity. But anyway, yeah, I guess really the key point I wanted to make during this episode was that what Israel did was brilliant, but what Israel did is terrorism. Okay, so just call it what it is. You can love it, you can hate it, but it's terrorism. That's exactly what it was intended to do.
I love it. I unashamedly, like, bravo. Like, I tip my cap to you, sir. It's like that was fuck
and
you on every level.
The meme magic of the Jew army, right? Remote circumcising a bunch of heathen Islamists. It's just chef's kiss. Brilliant.
Well, that's about all I got for today.
Boy, the next time my cell phone gets hot in my pocket, I'm throwing that fuck. Let me hold it right up to my face and look at it as it gets hotter and hotter. Nope.
That's the one you want. All right. I'm going to go ahead and kick you guys out and say goodbye to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here, guys. Cameron, you especially. I know you it was last minute for you to be available, and we appreciate having you. Maybe we can do one later and talk about the movie we went and saw yesterday. But y'all take care. And to you guys, thanks for watching this morning. We really do appreciate you. I want to grow the show. So make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe. Share the shit out of the show. And hit the little bell for notifications, because we go live. You can see it on the crawl down there every Monday through Friday at 7:30 Eastern for news, policies, politics, and commentary. That's our standard show. Start at 7:30, go for half an hour, plus or minus until I'm tired of talking, or until we stop having fun, or until you guys stop engaging in the chat. But generally we try to do at least a half an hour, and then we'll play with it if the topic is going good or the viewership is going real high and all that stuff. Pretty good views today. Thanks for that, by the way, guys. But hit that bell notification, because if another guy tries to murder the president, we're going to go live. We're going to do an emergency broadcast, a breaking news broadcast, like we did on Sunday, like we did the last time some Democrat tried to murder my president, right? If, this one, honestly, I was that close to going live on an emergency broadcast over this pager explosion thing yesterday. But I had a prior commitment, and I thought to myself, no, I want some more information to come out so I can talk about this some more. But so we're not going to break ourselves trying to get all the breaking news. But when the breaking news is big, if you've got that bell notification rung, you just might get to tune in to one of the emergency broadcast live shows. We have a lot of fun on those too. Even when it's a solemn occasion, right? I mean, I'm an old veteran. I've been shot at and blown up a bunch. Y'all, dark humor is part of coping with that, and I'd love to share a little bit of that with y'all. So thanks for tuning in this morning. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.